Ridgewood House, New Beginnings. A place where dreams and reality intertwine, where the past meets the present in a delicate dance. This is the story of John and Mary, a young couple eager to start their new life together. John and Mary, young and in love, found their dream home in Ridgewood House. The house stood tall and proud, a testament to a bygone era. They were captivated by its charm and elegance, envisioning a future filled with happiness and memories. A beautiful Victorian mansion, full of character. They dismissed local rumors of hauntings and eerie occurrences, believing them to be nothing more than old wives' tales. To them, Ridgewood House was a sanctuary, a place to build their dreams, a fresh start they craved. They held hands, standing in front of their new home, feeling a sense of accomplishment and excitement. The future seemed bright, and they were ready to embrace it with open arms. Ridgewood welcomed them with open arms. The house, bathed in moonlight, seemed almost alive, as if it had been waiting for them. It whispered promises of new beginnings and endless possibilities. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the walls. The house was filled with a warm, inviting glow, making it feel like a true home. John and Mary felt a sense of peace and contentment. They unpacked, filled with hope. Each box they opened was a step closer to making Ridgewood House their own. They arranged furniture, hung pictures, and made plans for the future. Their hearts were light, and their spirits were high. Their laughter echoed in the empty halls. The house, once silent and still, was now filled with the sounds of life and love. John and Mary felt a deep connection to their new home, as if it had always been a part of their story. The first night was peaceful. They lay in bed, listening to the gentle creaks and groans of the old house, feeling a sense of comfort and security. The moonlight streamed through the windows, casting a soft glow over the room. They slept soundly, embraced by the stillness. The house seemed to wrap them in a protective embrace, shielding them from the outside world. It was a perfect start to their new life together. A perfect start, they thought. As they drifted off to sleep, they dreamed of the future, of the life they would build together in Ridgewood House. They felt blessed and fortunate to have found such a wonderful place to call home. Little did they know, darkness lurked around the corner. The house, with all its charm and beauty, held secrets that were yet to be revealed. Their journey was just beginning, and the true nature of Ridgewood House was about to unfold. Whispers of the past. Days turned into weeks. Strange occurrences began to unfold within the walls of the old mansion. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly, but soon became impossible to ignore. Faint footsteps echoed at night, as if someone or something was pacing the halls. The sound was soft, almost like a whisper, but it sent chills down the spine of anyone who heard it. Doors creaked open and slammed shut with a force that seemed unnatural. It was as if the house itself was alive, breathing and moving in the darkness. Lights flickered, plunging rooms into darkness without warning. The sudden loss of light left the inhabitants in a state of unease, their imaginations running wild with what could be lurking in the shadows. Mary dismissed it as the old house settling, attributing the noises and flickering lights to the age and condition of the mansion. She tried to convince herself that there was nothing to fear. John, however, felt a chill that he couldn't explain. The air seemed to grow colder around him, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. An uneasiness settled in his gut, a gnawing sensation that kept him on edge. He found himself constantly looking over his shoulder, expecting to see something that wasn't there. He couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. It was as if unseen eyes were following his every move, observing him from the shadows. One evening, while reading in the study, John saw it. A fleeting shadow darting across the hallway. It was quick, almost too quick to be real, but he knew he had seen something. A fleeting shadow darting across the hallway. His heart raced as he tried to rationalize what he had seen. Was it a trick of the light, or something more sinister? He dismissed it as a trick of the light, trying to calm his racing heart. But the doubt lingered. A seed planted in his mind that refused to be ignored. But doubt lingered. A seed planted in his mind. He couldn't help but wonder if the house was trying to tell him something. If the whispers of the past were calling out to him, begging to be heard. the lady in white. The hauntings escalated. Whispers followed them through the house. Cold spots appeared, sending shivers down their spines. One night, Mary woke with a start. At the foot of their bed, a figure hovered. A woman, draped in white, her face hidden in shadow. Mary screamed, shaking John awake. The figure vanished. Terror gripped their hearts. Denial was no longer an option. Ridgewood House was haunted. They needed help, someone to explain the unexplainable. The investigators' findings. Enter Professor Smith, a renowned paranormal investigator. Armed with EMF readers and cameras, he surveyed Ridgewood. He felt the energy, palpable and heavy. "There's a presence here," he confirmed, his voice grave. A woman, full of sorrow and rage. He discovered old journals, revealing a tragic tale. The former lady of the house, Elizabeth, died heartbroken. Her husband, a cruel man, drove her to despair. Now her spirit remained, trapped in her torment. Professor Smith suggested a seance, a way to communicate with Elizabeth, to understand her pain. John and Mary agreed, their fear overshadowed by a growing empathy. They sat in the living room, candles flickering, casting eerie shadows. Professor Smith guided them, his voice a low hum. The air grew thick, charged with anticipation. Suddenly, the candles extinguished. A cold wind whipped through the room. A voice, filled with sorrow, echoed, "He betrayed me." Elizabeth had made contact. The seance opened a doorway, a portal to the unknown. The air grew thick with anticipation as the participants held their breath, waiting for a sign. The candles flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls, and a chill ran down their spines. They had no idea what they had summoned, but they could feel its presence, lurking just beyond the veil of reality. Elizabeth's presence grew stronger, her anger palpable. She was a force to be reckoned with, a spirit tormented by her past. Her fury was like a storm, building in intensity with each passing moment. The room seemed to vibrate with her rage, and the participants could feel her anger seeping into their very bones. They knew they had to tread carefully, for Elizabeth was not a spirit to be trifled with. Objects moved on their own, defying the laws of physics. Chairs scraped across the floor and books flew off the shelves. The lights flickered, casting an otherworldly glow on the scene. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being torn apart by Elizabeth's wrath. The participants watched in horror, unable to comprehend the full extent of her power. Pictures flew off the walls, crashing to the floor with a deafening noise. Fear turned into terror as the participants realized they were at the mercy of a vengeful spirit. The once peaceful seance had turned into a nightmare, and there was no escape. They could only hope to survive the night and find a way to appease Elizabeth's restless soul. One night, John woke to a blood-curdling scream. His heart raced as he sat up in bed, trying to make sense of the noise. It was a sound that chilled him to the core, a scream filled with pure, unadulterated terror. He knew it could only mean one thing. Elizabeth was back, and she was angrier than ever. He rushed to Mary, his heart pounding in his chest. The house seemed to close in around him as he ran, the shadows growing darker and more oppressive. He could hear Elizabeth's whispers, taunting him, urging him to give in to his fear. But he couldn't let her win. He had to protect Mary, no matter the cost. She stood frozen, eyes wide with horror. Her body trembled, and her breath came in short, ragged gasps. She could feel Elizabeth's icy touch, a reminder of the spirit's unrelenting presence. Mary knew that they were running out of time. They had to find a way to put Elizabeth to rest before it was too late. "She touched me," she whispered, her voice trembling. The words hung in the air, a testament to the terror they were experiencing. Elizabeth's touch was cold and unforgiving, a stark reminder of the spirit's power. Mary knew that they couldn't continue living like this, constantly looking over their shoulders, waiting for the next attack. John held her close, his own fear mirrored in her eyes. They clung to each other, seeking comfort in the midst of the chaos. The bond between them was strong, but even that might not be enough to withstand Elizabeth's wrath. They had to find a way to end this, to bring peace to the restless spirit that haunted their lives. They couldn't live like this, constantly on edge, waiting for the next supernatural event. The stress was taking its toll, and they knew they had to act fast. They needed to find a way to communicate with Elizabeth, to understand her pain and help her move on. It was their only hope of reclaiming their lives and finding peace. They had to help Elizabeth find peace, or Ridgewood would consume them both. The house had become a prison, a place of fear and despair. But they were determined to break free, to find a way to put Elizabeth's spirit to rest. It was a daunting task, but they knew they had no other choice. Their future depended on it. Professor Smith returned, his face grim. "We need to release her," he declared. "Her anger is consuming her, turning her into something vengeful." He devised a plan, a ritual to acknowledge Elizabeth's pain, to offer her forgiveness and peace. They gathered in the attic, where Elizabeth was said to have died. As they performed the ritual, the air crackled with energy. The room grew cold, shadows dancing menacingly. Then a blinding light, and silence. The house felt lighter, the oppressive energy lifted. John and Mary cleaned the debris, their hearts filled with a cautious hope. Had they succeeded? Days turned into weeks. The haunting ceased. Ridgewood House was peaceful once more. They had faced the darkness and emerged, forever changed by the experience. Life resumed a semblance of normalcy, yet they couldn't shake off the feeling that Elizabeth was still there, watching over them. John and Mary remained in Ridgewood House. They had grown accustomed to its presence, to the subtle reminders of its haunted past. Sometimes, late at night, they thought they heard the rustle of a silk dress, or felt a cold spot in the hallway. But it was different now, not menacing but melancholic. Elizabeth was at peace. Her sorrow lingered, a permanent resident of Ridgewood House, a chilling reminder that some wounds, even in death, never truly heal.